So the second part of this UV layout is going to be this ribbon and this bow. And this is going to be a little bit more tedious. So I want to show you a couple of other tools that will make parts of it easier. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to isolate this. So let's just go ahead and hide everything else and just work on this. Control H. Just work on this top bow for right now. And again, this is not useful at all, right? If I put the checkerboard pattern on this, like, you can see how it's stretching and it just looks terrible. And if I wanted like polka dots going down this ribbon, it would just be impossible for me to get that with this texture. So the first thing I'm going to try is that automatic mapping. So if I go UV, automatic, and you'll see it kind of works, right? It's close, right? But it's not perfect. And there's a lot of confusing stuff in here. To make this a little bit clearer to see, I'm going to hit 1, and that way I'm not seeing it smoothed mode. I can see a little bit more of what's what. And I could very easily go through here and just edge at a time start trying to stitch this thing back together. And you'll see like it's kind of working, right? But instead I'm gonna do something a little different. So I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna unwrap parts of this in different ways. So UV, and I'll just do camera based, and that's going to get us all in one big UV island now. So there's only one UV shell, well, 2 UV shells. And this is pretty handy because these were 2 different pieces. So the ribbon is 1 piece and the bow is 1 piece, right? And actually a couple of other things inside of the bow there are 1 piece. So so let's just go ahead and use that to our advantage. So with UV shells selected, I'll go ahead and start moving these and separating these out. And so we can see what's what. And in here, the ribbon itself is 1 UV shell. So with that UV shell selected, I'm going to try automatic mapping on it. And so UV's automatic. And it's just going to lay out this part of the shell with automatic mapping and not these parts of the bow, right? And that maybe makes sense because this I could then go through here and try to find the edges that I can stitch together a little bit easier, and I may be able to get something a little bit more useful out of this. But let's talk about these things here. These are going to be a little bit more complicated. And so I'm going to select this and this. So these 2 pieces here, really what it would be nice is if I could just say, here's the seam, here's the place where I want you to cut, and then I just want Maya to unfold it, right? So let's actually see if it will do something like that. So the first thing I want to do is tell it to find the seams. So with those 2 things selected, I'll say auto seam, and that's under cut and sew. And what it's going to do is it's going to cut it along that outside edge there. And then I'm going to select those UVs for the bow part, and under modify, there's an unfold option. Let's go to the options box here. You'll see that there are 2 different versions. There's Unfold 3D and Legacy. I'm just going to go edit and reset my settings. Just let it go ahead and default to Unfold 3D. And when I hit apply and close, it's going to take those and sort of just lay them out, like stretch them out. So think of it like a bed sheet. We've cut the edges, and really now Maya has taken all those edges and pulled them so it will all unfold like a sheet, right? And so now we have these 2 different UV shells, and although they're not going to line up perfectly, you'll see that the way that the checkerboards are lining up on there are at least evenly distributed. There's not any stretching. And so what I can do is go in here now and sort of rotate these to get these a little bit more symmetrical, maybe something like that. Same here, rotate this to get this a little bit more with the checkerboards flowing in the direction we want it to. Now the checkerboards are flowing on this part pretty well as well. And so I want to just show you that it doesn't always pay off to run unfold. And if I just select all of this stuff here, and I did UV camera based, so it's all in one piece, did auto seam, and then with those UVs, I did modify unfold. I mean, actually, that's not terrible. It's actually better than I expected. So if I go to UV shell here, rotate it, and get it a little bit straighter. So part of our problem is it's not going to line up just perfectly straight. So you'll see how some of this line is sort of waving, and that's because it sort of stretched it out, and I do kind of want this to be a little bit more uniform. But it's not bad. So maybe I'll do that UVs again and grab all of those. And this time let's try the legacy version of Unfold and say apply. And that didn't work at all. That was a terrible solution. So I'll just undo that. So this is getting us close. If we want to clean this up a little bit more, maybe we do a combination of the two, right? Maybe I manually unwrap parts of it, or even instead of manually unwrapping parts of it, see, we get stuff like this where it's all kind of clunky together there. Maybe that's the parts where I can just go in here and literally a few UVs at a time. I just have to kind of unfold this. Now I do want to show you a couple of tools that make some of this a little easier. Is I could go in here and select these edges, and we do have an option in here under under unfold to straighten the UVs. And so when I click that, it will kind of try to straighten them out along a certain axis a little bit. So there's a whole bunch of little things we can do to adjust these. But for the most part, this is, you kind of have to pick which of these you're wanting to do. So for me, this is close enough. I would maybe go ahead and tinker with this just a touch to get that a little bit better. And then the other thing we can do is there is some soft select tools here where you can hold B and middle click to get a larger or smaller selection and be able to sorry, I was on UV shells, and be able to nudge this around a little bit, right? So we can do some other stuff with it, but really it's just trying to get this laid out in a way that's going to give us a reasonable solution. I think this is close, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab my UV shells now, turn off my soft select again, and go to layout and let it lay that out in a single piece here. I'm actually going to do a layout again later here with all of them selected. So the last thing I want to do is my bow bottom, Shift H. I'll go ahead and hide this one, object mode, Control H. And so this one, let's try what the unfold does with it. If I go to UVs, select all of it, and modify unfold. Is that close enough? It's not bad, yeah. I wonder if I can do a 45-degree rotation. It's not a perfect 45, so let's just nudge it in there a little bit more. Okay, so that's all lining up reasonably enough, I think, for what I'm wanting to do. And so I'm going to bring all of my models back, Shift H. And here's the part that may be a little confusing to you. I want to be able to texture this with a single image. So I want maybe like, you know, little Santa Claus icons or Santa Claus images all over the box, but polka dots on my string. But I don't want to have to do two different textures. I just want to do one texture where I combine it all. And I also want to put a little tag on the top that says to Noah. And so I'm just going to grab all this and I'm going to lay all of these out in a single UV space. So with them selected, I'm going to go to Layout, and it's just going to put them all in one space. Okay, so I'm going to have to do some remembering now, and I just looked this up. So that is my bottom outside, bottom inside. This is the ring that goes around the top of the box, the ring that goes around the bottom of the box. You know, this is the inside, the bottom of the box. These are the top outsides, right? And then these are my ribbons. And so I just need to remember some of that stuff so I know where it is. I am going to move these a little bit more in the center just so they are easier to see. And I'm going to, yeah, I think that should do it. I wish this wasn't quite so close to the edge, so I'll nudge that in just a touch. Yeah, and I think that should do it for what we're going to do with the textures. All right, so in the next video, I'm going to show you how to take this UV layout. Actually, before we do anything, or before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and just one last time modify freeze transformations, edit, delete by type history. And so now I can save this file, save scene as, and I'm going to call this box-based unwrapped. So now that this is unwrapped, we can export out this image and use it as a template in Photoshop or any image creation software we want in order to piece together what our texture is going to look like as we apply it to this box.